Welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Future. Today we're going to be looking at a question that's been around forever, it feels like, but also has huge implications for the future. And that is, are pain and death, are they actually necessary parts of life? Or are they just like these holdovers, from our evolutionary past? What if we could use technology to move beyond them? Like, just imagine what that would be like.
It's a question that's becoming more and more relevant. I mean, look at the progress in areas like biohacking and AI and medicine. They're pushing the boundaries of what we used to think was even possible. We're actually starting to see hints of a future where maybe pain and death aren't the guarantees they've always been.
I've been reading a lot about neuromodulation lately, where they use technology to actually modify pain signals. It's like something out of science fiction. Can you explain a little bit how that even works and what kind of impact it could have on how we experience pain?
It's really pretty amazing when you think about it. Imagine like you could just turn down the volume on pain in your body. That's basically what neuromodulation is trying to do. It's like they implant devices or use these really targeted therapies to interact with your nervous system. And that changes how your brain processes pain signals. It could totally change how we treat chronic pain, offer relief that we just can't get with the usual methods.
Wow. So instead of just masking the pain with meds, we might actually be able to control it at the source.
Exactly.
That's a huge deal for people who live with chronic pain. But it makes you think, if we can get rid of pain, should we?
It's a really interesting question. As much as we hate it, pain has been super important to our evolution. It's like our body's alarm system, right? Telling us when to avoid danger, learn the mistakes, and heal. If we get rid of pain, are we taking away this crucial feedback system that keeps us safe?
Yeah. It's like the old saying, no pain, no gain. Pain has always been part of being human. It shapes how we interact with the world and learn from our experiences.
That's exactly right. And there's a philosophical argument, too, that pain makes pleasure feel even better. Think about that incredible feeling of relief you get after a hard workout or how good a hot shower feels on a freezing day. Would those things feel as good if we never experienced the opposite?
Oh, I get what you mean. It's kind of like that yin and yang thing. You can't have one without the other, right? Eliminating pain might seem great at first, but would it actually make all our emotions kind of bland? Like, would we even recognize happiness or joy without knowing what sadness or pain feels like?
That's a big question for a lot of transhumanists. They're really looking at how we can use technology to go beyond our biological limits, and they see pain and death as those limits.
I want to talk more about death, actually. We've been talking about eliminating pain, but the idea of conquering death, that's a whole other thing.
It is, and all these advances in biohacking and AI and medicine, they're making the idea of radical life extension and maybe even immortality feel less like fantasy and more like a real possibility.
So let's just stop for a second here. I want everyone listening to try to picture this. What if you could choose whether or not to die? What if you could live as long as you wanted? How would that change your life, your goals, your ambitions, everything? Would the things you're working towards now, would they still matter as much?
Wow, that's a real mind bender. I mean, would we still be driven to achieve great things if we had forever to do it? Would we take risks, fall in love, go after our dreams with the same passion if we knew we had all the time in the world? It really makes you think about what it means to be human.
It makes me wonder, would anyone even want to live forever if it meant giving up all those things that make life special and precious? Like, would we still treasure those moments, the connections we make, our experiences, if they weren't finite, if they didn't end?
That's such a profound question, and it leads us to a really important point. What are the ethical and existential consequences of a world without pain and death?
I've been reading a lot about the potential downsides of this kind of future. It's not all just happy stuff, is it?
No, not at all. I think one of the biggest worries is that it could create even more division and inequality in society. Just imagine a world where only the rich and powerful can afford these technologies that make you live longer and get rid of pain.
Yeah, you'd end up with this huge gap between the enhanced people and everyone else. Like one of those dystopian sci-fi stories where there are two classes of humans, those who can pay to upgrade themselves and those who can't.
And it goes beyond just having access to the technology. Some people are worried that if we eliminate pain and death, we might actually lose some of the most important things that make us human, the things that make us compassionate and empathetic and give us meaning.
That's a good point. It makes you think about how going through tough times, like suffering and loss, connects us all as humans. Would we still value life or care about each other as much if we didn't all share those experiences?
Those are definitely some of the big questions we need to think about as we move into this unknown territory.
And there's also the issue of losing our autonomy or control over ourselves. We're already worried about things like data privacy and tech companies having too much power over our lives. But what if they could control how we experience pain and pleasure, or even our memories and decisions?
That's a scary thought. I mean, if our brains are directly connected to technology, how can we be sure that our thoughts and feelings are really our own? What if someone could manipulate our sense of pain to make us do things or erase memories that they don't like?
It's like all those sci-fi movies about mind control suddenly becoming real. Would we even be human anymore in a world like that? Would we still have free will, or would we be something totally different?
It all goes back to that first question we ask. Would we even recognize ourselves in a future without pain and death?
I've been thinking a lot about that as we've been talking. On the one hand, the idea of getting rid of those limitations is super appealing. Just imagine a world without suffering or the fear of dying.
Right. It's easy to think we could finally reach our full potential. We could explore the universe and create amazing works of art and science, things that would have been impossible before. We could work on projects that take generations to finish because we'd have all the time in the world.
But then what if, in trying to get rid of pain and death, we accidentally destroy the very things that give our lives meaning and purpose? Would we still be motivated to do those great things if we had forever to do them?
Think about it. It's the struggles we overcome, the sadness we feel when we lose someone, the fact that our time is limited that all shapes who we are and what we value. Would those things even matter anymore?
I mean, would we really trade all of that for a life of comfort and immortality? Or would we be giving up what makes us human for something that might end up feeling empty and meaningless?
It's like we're standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to unlimited possibilities, but the other path could lead to losing something really important about what it means to be human.
Yeah, I think we have to be really careful about assuming that getting rid of pain and death will automatically make the future better. It's not that simple. Maybe instead of asking if pain and death are necessary, we should be asking what kind of future we want to create. Do we want a future where these things are completely gone, or one where we've learned to control them and use them to our advantage?
I really like how you put that. It shows that we have a say in what the future looks like. It's not set in stone. The choices we make today are going to determine whether we end up in a utopia or a dystopia, a world where technology helps us or one where it controls us.
It's a huge responsibility, but it's also pretty exciting to think about. We're living in a time when the possibilities are endless. We have this incredible chance to shape the future of humanity.
And that's what this whole deep dive has been about. It's not just about understanding the science and technology behind these incredible advancements. It's about grappling with the ethical and philosophical questions they raise. Because in the end, it's not just about what we can do, it's about what we should do. And each of us have to figure that out for ourselves as we navigate this crazy world that's changing so fast.
You know, this conversation has really changed how I think about things. Instead of seeing pain and death as the enemy, maybe we should think of them as essential parts of being human, things that can teach us, shape us, and make us who we are.
Exactly. Imagine a future where we have control over when and how we experience pain, where we use it to grow and learn instead of just suffering through it.
And what if death wasn't this big, scary unknown, but a choice we could make on our own terms?
It's a totally different way of looking at things, but I think it has a lot of potential. It challenges everything we think we know about life and death. But maybe that's what we need, a fresh perspective that lets us see beyond our current limitations and imagine a future where we're not just surviving, but thriving. A future where we're not trying to erase pain and death, but changing how we relate to them.
You know, as we've been talking, it really hits me that this isn't just about whether we can eliminate pain and death. It's so much bigger than that. It's about what kind of future we want and what being human will even mean in that future.
It makes you question everything we think we know about ourselves. Like, if pain and death are choices instead of things we can't avoid, what does that even say about what it means to be human?
It's like stepping into a whole new reality, right? One where the old rules don't apply anymore. It's kind of exciting, but also a little scary, don't you think?
It definitely brings up way more questions than it answers, but I think that's part of what makes it so fascinating. It forces us to really examine our beliefs about life and death and what it means to be alive.
We're not just talking about small improvements here. We're talking about potentially changing the entire human experience.
I know, right? It's like we're at the beginning of this whole new era of self-discovery. We have the power to not just understand our biology, but to actually change it, to redefine what humans are capable of.
But like we've been saying, that power comes with a lot of responsibility. We can't let our excitement about technology blind us to the potential risks.
We can't just rush into this without thinking about the ethics and what it means for society. What happens if only a small group of people can afford to live longer and not feel pain? Could it make inequality even worse and create new divisions between people?
And what about the possibility of people using this technology for the wrong reasons? If you can control pain and even death, who decides how those things are used? These aren't just theoretical questions. We have to start thinking about the answers now.
You're absolutely right. The future is happening whether we like it or not, and what we do today is going to decide what that future looks like.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave everyone listening with one last thought. We've talked about some pretty mind-blowing stuff today. And the thing that keeps coming back to me is choice.
Yeah, it's not about whether we can overcome our limits anymore, it's about whether we should. And if we do, how do we do it responsibly?
Technology gives us the tools to rewrite the rules, but it's up to us to decide what kind of game we want to play.
That's a great way to put it. What kind of future will you choose?
Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Future, everyone. Until next time, keep looking ahead.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give us a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the bell icon to stay updated on the latest breakthroughs in technology, AI advancements, and the future that awaits us.